Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3% of bad apes dictate the entire reputation of. Welcome back, Construction Champions, to another episode of Construction Champions Podcast. I'm your host, Nussbaum. And, like I've been saying, just hit one of them buttons if you would. That would be absolutely amazing. Wherever you're listening, if it's that like button, the subscribe button, or like I said on the last show, leave me a comment that tells me to F off, I guess, if you're not interested in that. It helps us continue to get our mission out there. Construction Champions Podcast is built to change the mindset around the construction industry. And the more people we have listening, the more people that the mindset's changing, that are taking things we talk about on here every week and implementing them into their businesses. And that is why I started this. That's why we're here today. And you guys don't show up just for me. You show up because of our amazing guests we bring on. And today is no different. Mick, it is fantastic to have you back.
Absolute pleasure to be here. It's 6 a.m. The sun hasn't come up here. I'm in the dark.
It's later here and the sun's about ready to go down. So we're about in the same place. As the sun will go down here and it'll rise where you're at.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, for all the construction champions that have joined us since the last time you were on the show, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Absolutely. Mick Hawes. I am the co-founder of Builders Business Black Belt, and I'm a business coach specializing in helping residential builders, experienced residential builders that have sort of been in the game for 10 years plus. So they've had a few laps around the planet or a few laps around the sun. And they generally, most of our members generally work with their partner. So it's a husband and wife run thing. Myself and my wife run Builders Business Black Belt. So we kind of know the foibles and challenges of working with your wife. we have a compassion for partners who work together.
Mick, one of the things I love about you is you know exactly who you can add the most value to. Like, all of our listeners are going to learn something today, but you know exactly who that ideal business owner is that you can have the biggest impact on. And that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's it's the funny thing was that I've been a performance coach for probably 35 years. Worked with top level athletes from Australia in a few different sports, but primarily business coach, small business coach. Always spoke about niching, and then about 11 years ago, the business coach that I had, so I had a business coach who coaches business coaches, and he was talking about niching, and he was teaching me how to go from the one-on-one type of coaching method to the one-to-many, the group, which was phenomenal when we shifted. But he was talking about niching, and I was just working with small business at the time and thought that was a niche, which was not. It's just not. And so I went through a process of, I knew that I wanted to work with businesses where their clients were coming to them through a want, a desire, rather than a need. And so I found a website that had listed every single small business, type of small business there is on the planet. So butcher, baker, candlestick maker, all of that sort of stuff. And I went through it with a highlighter and highlight each business that I felt that their customers were driven to them because of a want rather than a need. and I ended up with three different businesses or industries that I could have niched into. One was golf, because I had been a golf tragic in the past. The other one, get this, was hair and beauty. Like, imagine me being a business coach in hair and beauty industry, you know. And the third was builders. And I was an electrician in the younger days, and my dad was a commercial builder. But the funny thing was that my coach said, well, we've got to narrow it down to two. So I went hair and beauty and builders. And then he had a coin, and he said, whatever the coin ends up, that's who you've got to go with. You've got to forget the other one. You've got to narrow your focus. And he flipped the coin, caught it, put it on his hand like that, and said, okay, what did you hope it was when it was in the air? And that's how I started the niche with builders. And then after that, just narrowed it down. Who do I resonate with? Who do I understand the most? And that's where we ended up with the residential builders that are sort of quite experienced, because they've had the highs and they've had the lows and the financial challenges and relationship challenges and health challenges and all of those things. And they've seen different economic situations, and they're still there. And they're the guys that we can help the most rapid, because we understand them, and they don't give up either. Like, they're still there after all of that.
I love it. I love that it came down to a coin flip. Like,
Yep.
all the things. Like, I think there's a lot of gambling that happens in construction. Like, it just naturally, you can do some gambling in there, because especially when you're renovating stuff, like, you don't know what's behind the walls, and sometimes we're rolling the dice on projects that your business got niched down based on a coin flip. I don't. We would never have met if you were a golf coach. If you were, I should meet you, because I desperately should have a golf coach.
Yeah. I think I would have ended up in this place anyway, because it's just like, I went through that process. Just and this is a really interesting point. You mentioned that this show is really all about mindset, and having a very, very clear focus on who you can serve best is really incredibly critical to the success of your business, because it's very difficult to be able to please lots of different types of people. Like, the skill set needs to be massive, but when you pick a particular type of person with a particular type of preference for a project, you can get really good at understanding what floats their boat, how they communicate, what they like, what they don't like, what they expect, and you can refine your business practices, systems, and communications so it fits those people perfectly. And it's so much easier when you do that. Back in the day, we would have had a massage therapist, a radio station, a bank, a security firm, a transport company, and the bottom line is there is about half a dozen business problems. That's all. There's about half a dozen issues that, if you're master in business, you'll be successful. But when you're speaking to the radio station and you say, well, we came up with this solution to this problem with the massage therapist, they'll go, well, yeah, but that's the massage therapist. That won't work for us. It will. They just don't believe it. And so when you niche down and you're working with a group of people who are in the same industry, suffering the same challenges, and you create a solution for one of them, they go, well, if it worked for them, it'll work for me. And so the belief is different. The amount of work you have to do is a lot less, because you don't have to tailor make solutions for everybody. You can make it once, and you can pass it on, and it can be refined, and you get feedback from the different members, and they just help each other. And that's the benefit of being in a community of people that are in that same industry and have the same sort of challenges that you do. Community is critical, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of what led you down that road probably has a huge impact on the businesses you work with now.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's, as I said, Julie and I have been working together in our business for 35 years. and it's like you're you're in the same house together, and then you're working together, and then, you know, sometimes, like obviously socially, we go out and meet with other people. You're kind of in each other's pockets a lot of the time, you know, nearly 24/7. And there's some challenges that come with that. There's some advantages that come with that when you're working with your spouse in a business, because, well, in the beginning, they're a little cheaper. But that's I maybe shouldn't have said that. It's out now. But, you know, I guess they understand what's going on. I think it's a very, very lonely road when you're running a building business on your own, you know, because if your partner's not involved, they don't really understand how challenging it is. Because like a builder has to be a psychologist, they have to be a therapist, they have to be someone who can make the trains run on time. They have project management skills, communication skills, a scientist, an engineer. Like, they just have to wear so many hats, and it takes a long time to gain that experience. And if your spouse isn't in the trenches with you, sometimes it's a bit hard to understand why you're putting in so much effort and so many hours, and it can be really challenging for the relationship. So, you know, I think it's a good thing when you're working with your spouse, and everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I work with mine, and we have for a while now, and not 35 years, but I mean, you're on the same team anyhow. So it's like,
Yeah.
you might as well be driving the same ship together instead of two different ships going different directions. It allows you to come together. You know, it's been a while since we talked about being a construction champion. I think we're kind of reframed the question a little bit to, what are you seeing out there right now that construction champions are doing?
I've sort of, in the last little while, noticed something that is a little bit of a concern, but also I've learned a lot through the process as well. And so we've been Builders Business Black Belt for over 10 years now. And our avatar was exactly what I said in the beginning. It was sort of that experienced older builder, generally works with their wife, been around the sun quite a few laps. And what I noticed is when it starts to get hard, what they'll tend to do is, like, that it presses on them, it stresses them and all of that sort of stuff, but they roll up their sleeves and they do what they need to do to keep moving and keep surviving and so forth. Younger builders coming into it have been brought up in a different era. You know, they've been brought up where, like, they've had a mobile phone thrust in their hand, you know, when they're 8 years old going to school, and they've got instant access to information, and just the desire or the experience they've had is that everything happens really, really quickly, and it's sort of effortless. And so what I notice is when it starts to get hard, what they'll tend to do is look for the silver bullet, the next quick fix, that sort of thing. And the thing that I have noticed that really makes the biggest difference, and you mentioned it right in your intro, is your mindset. So you can have all of the best tools and the dashboards and the cheat sheets and checklists and whatever it is to help run your business, but they are tools. And I've forever believed that the tool is only as good as the person that's using it, and the person that is using it, it's not so much their physical skills, it's their philosophy about how they use that tool that makes the biggest difference. And so we've always had, and we've increased it lately, a big push on the mindset side of things. It's what we talk about predominantly. We talk about systems and processes and things like that, but there's always this component of the mindset that is the foundation of whatever part of the building business we're talking about at the time. And so we teach our guys a thing called a personal success ritual. So it's about a 13 to 15 minute process that I ask them to do every single day, 7 days a week. And it prepares your mind before you even prepare your plan for the day. And the difference it makes is absolutely profound, because, it doesn't matter what you're working on. If you're making better and more informed decisions, and the decisions aren't all decisions are made emotionally. So if you're preparing yourself emotionally for the day, you will make better decisions. And part of what we're identifying now with our group is if you can learn how to enjoy your present moment more, like learn the art. It's a skill. It's not a gift. Learning the skill of enjoying your present moment, and then the next moment, and the next moment, and the next moment. And that's all done with perspective and perception. And you don't have knee-jerk reactions to some of the problems you're presented with each day. And you just sort of sit back and allow it to sort of pass through you. And if it's a thing that you're angry about or frustrated about, and you think, well, this is happening for me, it's not happening to me, and I'll just sort of sit with it for a moment, and then I have a response after considering what's going on. What you'll find is that a massive amount of problems that would have had to have been dealt with in your future disappear, because you're making better quality decisions, because you're not knee-jerking and reacting and jumping up and down and freaking out and all of that sort of stuff. So mindset, super, super important for construction.
It absolutely is. What's amazing, I literally was just getting my hair cut before this call, and the lady that cut my hair told me about how if she had walked in the room a few days ago and completely forgot what she went in that room for. And then 3 days later, she remembered. And she's like, it was completely irrelevant. And I looked at her and I said, that's pretty much everything in life. In the moment, we give it so much power. But most things that happen, there will be things that happen, but most things that happen are not enough to really move the needle in our entire life right there in that moment. But we treat everything, like you said, with emotion, instead of just being present and understanding this is where I'm at, this is what's currently happening, and we just have to make the best decisions we can make, and not focusing on that, is this a life or death situation? Because most of them are not.
No, but like as an example, I've been speaking to one of our younger guys. They've only just recently joined black belt. Husband and wife, no kids, young, real entrepreneurial, real, has a crack at the title. He's a real goer, but also very emotive, like in his decision making and so forth. And in the last month, he's had a couple of issues. One with a customer at the end of a project, and another one with a prospect at the beginning of a project. And he jumps on the phone and we have a chat about it, and we come back to that, no rash decisions, just let it sit, let the emotion take its course, and then a day later or whatever, come to the conversation with a with a calm energy, not a frenetic or an aggressive energy, which is what he would traditionally have done. And in both cases, the results have he's got to call me up. He said, that's amazing. Like the people are so happy, and we're moving ahead, and this, that, and the other. But it's one of the recommendations, and this is from over your side of the world, that I make, is that you've got Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer, over there. And I just consumed his show ever since it first started. And folks, I think that is the best people management training you can get. And I'm not even joking. If you understand the psychology that he uses and how he approaches getting a dog to behave better. He doesn't he does some work with the dog because it's, the way that it's been trained. I guess he has to retrain it, but the fundamental focus is he works with the human, because the human's energy is the thing that determines the dog's behavior. And they're trying to change the dog's behavior without changing the human's energy. And it's exactly the same when we talk to our subcontractors, our staff, our suppliers, our clients, our prospects. If you bring a certain energy to the conversation, it's going to dictate how things turn out. And if you're calm and thoughtful and considerate and listen and care, your relationships with your clients and your prospects and your team members will transform. So it all begins and ends with you.
That's 100% true. And that, and the dog trainer, dog whisperer, like that's what he does. Like he works with the people. Like everything's a people business. That's what causes the problems. It's the people, and how, like you said, what are the emotions you bring into the table, especially as the leader of a business, because you're setting the tone for what happens the rest of the day out on the job site, and that can make things go south fast.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that's been whizzing around in my head lately, because I challenge myself to have thinking time sessions with no objective other than just to allow myself to think and my thoughts go wherever they go to. And I've been listening to a bit of Robert Greene, and I think it's called Keys to Mastery is the audio book. And just listening to all of these different stories like Einstein and what have you, and their philosophies and their stories and what have you, and learning about the pathway to mastery. And of course, they always bring up the old 10,000 hours to mastery. That's something I've been aware of for a long, long time. And the sort of bizarre things that I think about, I was in the car listening to the audio book, and I go, 10,000 hours, to mastery. And mastery is, you don't master everything, you master a thing. And I think that for a builder, or any business owner really, but we're talking about construction champions and builders, I think communication, your ability to effectively communicate and understand from other people's perspectives without judgment, and all of that, to be able to build rapport, which creates effective communication, is the single most valuable skill a business owner or a builder can master. And I'm thinking about that 10,000 hours thing. And I'm sitting in my car and I'm going, well, if I was able to get a builder to put 1 hour a day into mastering that skill of communication, but I want them to master it. And if they put 1 hour a day for 5 days a week, for 48 weeks a year, because you got 4 weeks off, it will only take you 41.6 years to become a master. Like, that's just up the road. That's not going to take long. But it went boof in my head, and I've gone, wow, like there's a difference between getting good at something and mastering something. You've got to make that sort of commitment. Now, there are amazing artists and guitarists and whatever around that it didn't take them 41 years to become a master. It was because they did more than an hour a day, and that's how the math works. And I'm deadly serious about this. Anybody listening, if you think about what is the one thing, what is the lever that I can pull that's going to make the biggest difference to my business in the future? And this isn't a now thing. So we were just talking about, we're emotional and we're, urgent and get it done now and all of that. This is something that you've got to commit to. But if you genuinely want a sustainable long-term business that will improve and improve and improve, the one thing, the one lever is communication. And because you're with people most of your waking day, as long as you're consciously aware of your communication, you put some time aside to learn a new refinement to your communication, but you have the opportunity to practice it 8, 10, 12 hours 14 hours a day. Like, you can master it quite quickly if you're consciously aware of it. But again, Ron, it's coming back to that mindset. You've got to have that mindset of awareness of what I'm thinking, and am I genuinely trying to listen to this person with the intent to understand right now, or do I just want them to understand my point of view? Like, you've got the opportunities all day, every day, as long as you've got that conscious awareness of what you're trying to master.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you know, one of the things I used to do is I used to take meeting notes during a meeting, and then afterwards I would always digest what my thoughts were on the conversation.
Yeah.
And I just started doing that and doing it every time, anytime I met with an employee, any cut, whatever I was doing, because I believe the same thing that you're talking about is that being an effective communicator is what separates the greats from the not. Like in any industry, in anything, the people that can effectively communicate are the ones that win. And I wanted to get really good at this because I sucked at it. I was not a good communicator, especially with employees. Like with my personality, what I had to realize I am going to come off like an ass unless I fix my understanding of how people communicate, because I'm the problem. Everybody else communicates however they communicate, and I communicate differently. So I learned to digest what people were saying, to have conversations with the intention to actually digest it, not to just have an emotional response or say what I thought, because what I thought, it might be right a lot of the time, but I wasn't in a position to deliver it in a way that was right for that individual. So I spent a lot of time doing this. I mean, it becomes a very critical skill set. And one thing I can say about it is nobody can take it away from you. Once you develop this, it's yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And the resource that I always turn to, and it's something I started consuming back in 1991, I think, was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit 5: first seek to understand, then to be understood. And fundamentally, in a building business, your clients want to be, and they don't even know this, but this is what they want. They want to be supported, they want to be protected, and they want to be guided. What do they need you for if they already know everything? Like, they don't. They don't know what they need to know to be able to manage a project, a building project. So they need to be protected from the pitfalls. They need to be guided. They need to be supported. And the thing that we talk about all the time in Black Belt is that the structure, the building, the extension, the renovation, the home is not your product. Your product is how you make them feel. It's the quality of your client's experience that is your product. And if you think about that, that's what your conversations with your team need to be wrapped around for the majority of the time. When you're having team meetings, it shouldn't be, okay, we've got to do this today and that today. Obviously, you've got to do that. You've got to have a plan of what to do to build the thing. But there needs to be a foundation of how we're doing it, and plotting and scheming ways to be able to blow your client's socks off this week. What can we do to blow their minds this week? And something you said a little minute ago, where you write things down and so forth. That's such a great idea, particularly with prospects, and then they eventually become a client. And I would suggest to every builder that you have a dossier on every prospect, and you start to listen to the comments and in the small talk where you're picking up what their passions are, what their interests are, what their problems are in their family, in their work life, and things like that. Because one of the things I'm passionate about is the 4 areas of a building business to me are, the first one is attract, which is like your marketing, the qualify, which is like the sales process. The last one is scale, but the one I'm talking about now is deliver plus. That's the build. And we call it deliver plus because the first thing you need to do is deliver on the expectations of your client. So to be able to deliver on the expectation of your client, you need to know what the hell they are. So you've got to listen and you've got to note it down. The plus is where the magic happens, because the plus is the surprise. That's the thing that they remember. And I suggest things like, you know, when the slab is down, for instance, you just get your chalk line out and you mark out all of the rooms in the, so there's no walls, it's just a concrete slab with the rooms all marked on the slab, and you send a vehicle to pick up the clients and you bring them back to site where everyone has got around, and you've got a table and chairs in the dining room on the slab, and you all sit down and have a meal together and discuss things and have a good time just at lunchtime, but it's a complete surprise for your client. Do you think they'll ever remember that sort of shit? Like, and it doesn't have to be that elaborate, although that doesn't cost much to do something like that. And it's a good thing to do for the team, but it's an amazing thing to do for your clients. But it could be as simple as you remembered in one of your initial meetings that the husband is a golf tragic. You know, it just might have been a throwaway line, and you're there with your dossier, and after you've had the meeting with him, you write down interests, golf. And then all you need to do is go buy a golf magazine, and this is the key to it. You don't give them the whole golf magazine. You rip an article out, rip it out, and put it in an envelope, and put their name on the envelope. And the next time you see them on site, you just say, "Hey, Ron, I remember some time ago you said you're a bit interested in golf. I saw this article, thought you might be interested in it." Bang. And you hand it to him, you drop the mic, and you walk away. And he goes, "How the hell did he remember that I was interested in golf?" And it's like, it's those little inputs showing that you care that really powerfully impacts the quality of your client's experience, because it doesn't matter a stuff how good you are. Like at the a year after they've handed the project over, and somebody comes and visits the homeowner that you know you've built the home, and they go, "Well, I'm thinking about building. What was that builder like?" They don't grab them by the hand and take them into the laundry and say, "Have a look at the miters around those architraves there." Like, they just don't talk about the quality of your work. They talk about who you were. He was unreliable. He didn't communicate. The site was messy, or he was a legend. They had dinner. They had dinner for us on when it was at slab stage. They remembered that our daughter was into ballet and found a DVD about ballet and gave it to her one day. Like, they were just incredible. Which one do you want to be?
I think you bring up an amazing point when we talk about communication, is that most of the time, if we started to track what we're actually communicating, it's the known stuff. Like you said with the project, like, we know, the team knows, like, that's why they disconnect from the conversation, because we're talking about the knowns. We're not providing any context to the conversation that is engaging for anybody. And that's what you're talking about doing, is you're talking about providing engagement in the conversation by not just talking about the like, we poured the slab and here's going to be the rooms, but you're creating an experience around that. And it's not like, that's how masters communicate, is they don't just talk, because everybody knows. You already know, like you said, you know what's happening on the project. When you talk to your team and you're like, "We got to do this, 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 and that," well, those are wasted words, because they already knew that. How can we convey this in a different way other than just talking about the knowns that get them paying attention, to where they're like, "Man, when Mick talks, like, I am ready to roll to the job site." And it's definitely not by talking about the known things they have to accomplish for the day.
No, you've got to be interested. You've got to care. And to that end, like builders, let's face it, like they are in it for the passion, but they have to survive financially. Like you've got to survive financially. So you've got to be able to charge a very reasonable price for everything that you do. And you have the right, and you should be profitable. And when a prospect makes a buying decision with a builder or anyone else, it's an emotional decision. And the decision is made on the the emotion of trust. How much do I trust that person? How much rapport and connection, pardon me, have I got with that person? And if one person is significantly more expensive than the other, but there's this high level of trust and I can see massive value, they're not, people don't make decisions based on bloody price. They just don't. They make it on emotion. And it's that connection, and it's the thing that they make the decision on is value, not money. Value every single time. And I will argue to the death with anybody about this topic. They do not make decisions based on price, yet most builders run their business and focus their prospects on I don't know what's going on. I must have swallowed a frog. That they focus their prospects on price, and then they say, oh, everyone's just worried about price, and I've got to be price competitive. That is horseshit. Like, you do not have to be. You just deliver value. And what's the thing that delivers most value for humans? It's this. It's being understood. That is it. So if the builder is a master, he's done 41.6 years at communication, and he's got the ability to listen with the intent to understand. And he asks them, do I understand from your perspective? And they give him the thumbs up. They confirm that they feel understood. It is the most powerful value any human can experience, because we're all going around wanting to be understood. It's one of, Abraham Maslow's fundamental human needs, like to be understood. It's in the hierarchy of human needs. And where most people are is that they're drowning. They can't breathe. And then Ron comes along, grabs their hand and lifts them up out the water, and they breathe, and there's Ron. Nowhere in my life does anybody genuinely understand my fears, frustrations, and wants and aspirations, but Ron does. And so subconsciously, I feel good every time I'm communicating with Ron, every time he's there, and I listen to him because he's wise. People listen to those who listen to them. You've got to have them feel that you understand them completely. When that happens, they will then want to listen to you. And that's when they'll follow your processes and and that's when the project just goes off, because you're doing it the right way. Like, clients just get in the way of a building project, don't they, with their opinions and stuff? Like, the best way to do it is your way. So we need to get them to trust you. And that's the pathway. It's the thing. That's why I think it's the biggest lever is learning communication when you're a builder.
I mean, this has been a masterclass, man. Like, you brought it. You brought it today. This has been absolutely amazing, man. For everybody listening out there, if they wanted to connect with you, follow you, learn more about what you do, be involved with it, what's the best places for them to do that?
Buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au, because I'm in Australia. And, we've got YouTube channel. We're on Facebook, all of that sort of stuff, LinkedIn. There's plenty of ways to connect with us. So more than happy to have a conversation with anybody.
Listen, don't you host a podcast as well?
Oh, yeah, I do. There it is. The Tool Shed. Oh, here it is. Here. The Tool Shed podcast. That's also on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcasts. The Tool Shed.
Oh,
I think You've been on it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been on it.
Yes.
Yeah. It, it's an amazing podcast. And like for anybody that's listening, you should go check it out. Just could continue your knowledge base. Like these resources. Like I said, Mick, thank you for being here today, man.
Absolute pleasure. Love it.
This has been amazing. So as I wrap it up here, it is like the master class that Mick just gave on communication and emotions and understanding your mindset. Like the list is long. You can get that on his podcast as well. Like, and if you want to stop listening to mine and start listening to his, or you listen to both, here's the thing. I just want you to get the knowledge, and then I want you to implement it. If you like Mitt's style, you should cruise on over to his podcast. Like this is what the industry needs. Is we need people coming together to help move the industry forward. And I have to ask everybody out there, like, how are you thinking with your emotions? Like, what is your mindset about this? And Mick brought up a good point about the grounding yourself and having these personal moments to live in the moment yourself. Because if you're getting out of bed every morning and you're already emotional about what's going to happen in the day, and when I say emotional, I mean stress, pissed, angry, upset, all this. I don't mean like you're getting out of bed crying. Like I think that's what people think when I say you're being emotional about something. It's not that. Like we feel all of these different emotions. If you're getting out of the bed in the morning with all of these different emotions and you're not taking a moment to be able to calibrate yourself, get yourself grounded, those emotions will carry on throughout the day. And if they're not good ones, they are going to wreak havoc on your business, your life, yourself, everything around you. So I highly recommend figuring out, what does that routine look like? How do I set myself up to have a successful day every day? It's all mindset. It all starts up there in your head. So Construction Champions, make sure you check out all of our fantastic partners. And until next time, be the champion you're meant to be.